The deeper and deeper I go, I find what it is I should know. 'Cause it's just a matter of time that you'll reawaken your mind. Oh, come with me, come to know and find out what is true. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds. Come to know and find out what is truth, yes. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds.
Happy Holy Day, Moors. Welcome to House of Reawakening Minds. House of Reawakening Minds exists to provide for the exploration and practice of spirituality in an enlightened community dedicated to honoring the myriad of sacred pathways to the universal creator. We are a holistic center for spiritual grounding, free thought, self-discovery, and more science, an awakening experience for all ages. Tonight, I am pleased to present to you our National Grand Sheik, Taj Tarik Bey, as he presents bills of attainder executed by English colony state corporations. But before he begins, please be sure to like, share, and if you have not already done so, subscribe to our channel. Now, let's receive Grand Sheik Taj Tarik Bey.
Islam, assalamu alaikum, shalom, vadimekum. We're going to discuss tonight bills of attainder because our people really need to know that they have been commonly used against our people and to pack the privately owned prisons operating at North America, particularly under the de facto jurisdiction of the United States, etc. And many of you already know, as has been revealed by us for decades, but now being supported by other scholars and people around the world, and particularly at North America, who are now making videos and other forms of communications, letting the people know that the United States is not a country. It's a private corporation run from Davos, Switzerland, belonging to the Vatican to execute their unum sanctum operations. And it's very important because we've often seen and heard many of the Aboriginal people here, particularly at North America, complain about the disingenuous and lopsided prison population operating at North America. And it is well-known fact that North America, under the U.S. corporation jurisdiction, has more prisoners than the rest of the world nations combined. But yet falsely being promoted as a so-called the free country or relative to, in comparison to other nation states. But one of the things I wanted to bring to your attention is making many of the common men and women, particularly those who have been concerned about justice and fair treatment of our people here who have been generally suffering under hybrid foreign European hegemony operations, falsely referred to as racism and prejudice, etc., so that they can be better prepared and better able to begin to move in the more correct directions of their activities to secure and reclaim their birthrights, as well as reclaiming their rights in general, etc., and to neutralize the civil little more two status that has been operative as a common order at North America. To give you a little bit more supports and comprehension of what an attainder is, we're going to go into an attainder in its nature, and then go to law book, ancient and modern jurisprudence, to give the listeners a little bit more support. Now, we're going to be talking about bills of attainder, which are and have been commonly used at North America. But we're going to explain what an attainder is anyway. So it's important for one to know what an attainder is. Now, an attainder is in so much as attainders are commonly used and are applied by corrupt or disingenuous politicians and via their agents or agencies via de facto government operations. Attainders are repugnant to birthrights, and they are repugnant and also are used implemented to effectively counter constitutionally secured due process rights. And they are often executed under a quote unquote color of law and are deemed to economically, socially, and politically neutralize, imprison, or to intimidate estate heirs, to intimidate and neutralize Aboriginal peoples, nationals, citizens, etc. Attainders are also commonly invoked via legal processes, as distinguished from lawful due processes, to suppress protesting peoples or to quell opposing political rivals. Attainders have most commonly been used by politicians to execute and to expedite municipal escheat operations and writs of executions related to lucrative mortgage foreclosures, especially against gentrification targeted communities, etc. This is where you have the kickbacks from bankers and mortgage companies and loan companies, contrary to Article 1, Section 10 operations, and particularly to those connected to the Federal Reserve foreign operators for financial and estate stealing, etc., via their private commercial papers, fiat system, against the peoples. Now, the purposeful usage of an attainder in its operative nature is to effectively extinguish the civil rights of a natural sentient man or woman in order to violate them or to persecute them while intentionally denying them fair due process rights. And so we're going to go into Henry Campbell Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, to give you a general synopsis and comprehension of the meaning of an attainder. An attainder is the extinction of civil rights and capacities which takes place whenever a person who has committed treason or felony receives sentence of death for his crime. The effect of an attainder upon such felon is in general terms that all his estate, real or personal, is forfeited, etc. An attainder differs from a conviction. Keep that in mind. An attainder differs from a conviction in that it is after judgment, whereas the condition is upon the verdict of guilty, but before a judgment is pronounced and may be quashed upon some point of law reserved, or judgment may be arrested. And the consequences of an attainder are the forfeiture of property and corruption of blood. So keep that in mind, because we're going to go in. I want you to go in your own time, quote unquote, a corruption of blood, because that's very important for you to comprehend what that is. While we won't go into it right now because of the time period, we want to focus on the attainder its function. Particularly, they've been using attainders recently, while the colony corporations have been attacking anyone, and particularly many of the Moorish consuls around the country, who have been executing the enforcement of the Constitution for the United States, and thus all treaties and obligations in force that have been neglected, particularly since the Eisenhower administration. And by the fact that the constitutions and treaties have been neglected strongly, or stronger than they were even previous since the Eisenhower administration, many of our people have not had a knowledge of the proper venues in which their issues or controversies by law must be heard or considered, etc., i.e. what is known as consular venue, Article 3, Section 2, international venue for distinction of nationality, which would be a consular venue. And most of you are aware of that already, but many of our people never thought to apply it to themselves because they were never told. This is why when this matter is brought up, and it has been brought up by us for many years, that you get so much pushback and that you have gotten so much counter conversations, trolling and criticisms by many, because it exposes so many peoples on both sides, whether the hybrid occupational colonial Europeans who have been pretending to be Americans for a couple centuries, or the true American Aboriginal peoples of the land, etc., often referred to as Negroes, Blacks, Coloreds, Indians, and the different Asiatic African tribes that have been the true heirs of the land for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, whose history have been altered, modified, twisted, misrepresented, etc., but who have been over the decades the major target used by de facto government via their attainders. So particularly, we're going to talk about bills of attainder, as you all know, which is described in the Constitution for the United States, etc. And many of the people have not been aware that attainders are unconstitutional, anti-treaty, jurisprudence in general, and come under color of law. Were you going to mention something, Dr.?
Just the fact that the bills of attainder actually come from, actually, I think it's under English law. And under, yes. Like you said, but just a little bit more in layman's terms, under the English law, the act of attainder declared a person or a group of persons guilty of a serious crime and punished them without the benefit of a judicial trial. Also, like you said, the person could no longer own property or pass property to his family by will or testament, and which is thus illegal.
And also, of course, it's not illegal.
Well,
it's unlawful.
Unlawful.
Because remember, they've been using legal processes,
right,
but not lawful processes.
Right.
Remember, lawful processes must be made distinguished from legal process. As a matter of fact, they have tricked and trapped our people by just throwing out the word legal, and the people have been assuming that because legal statements are made, therefore they're lawful. That has been the farthest thing from the truth. This is why many people over the years, and fortunately or unfortunately, according to how you look at it, you've experienced that since you've been working with me the last 11 years and being attacked while you're on a learning curve, making the distinction between legal and lawful.
Right.
And even these matters that we're talking about now, we talk about often. And a lot of times when these controversies come up, many of the listeners that construct many questions, many of those questions are constructed because they're not aware that we're arguing issues of bills of attainder, while that may not be the subject matter, which is another reason why I'm bringing this up, so that a lot of questions that people would develop would not be necessary, for they would have an understanding, understanding of what we're talking about, and where many of their arguments or concerns should be addressing or should be addressed that they may not have been aware of. And so the Bill of Attainder also, because as an example, with the kidnapping of the Consul General in the Maryland colony by the foreign commercial mercenaries of the Circle Church and Chancery at a Maryland territory, which one of the issues we're dealing with now, and has been concerned of many of the people who have been who have saw the video, because one of the things that according to protocol that we have instituted is that when they're encountering the foreign commercial mercenaries, to film them, because the filming creates a record. Now, and also keep in mind, one of the things that the foreign commercial mercenaries have been doing is that they have been, by virtue of controlling the mainstream media, all have been constantly slandering active Moors and other Aboriginal people around the world to make them appear that they're outside of the law, while these people are actually operating under a color of law, a color of authority, and a color of office. But the masses in general, having been suffering under the control of the education system, are influenced by them, etc., not knowing law or positive law jurisprudence, would often criticize or take the side of the opposing operatives, thinking that they are legitimate government. And this is again why we're going over the issue of a bill of attainder, because people really need to comprehend so they can make discernment. Because ultimately, a lot of these things will be fixed when the government, the true government, i.e. the people of the land, begin to be active and start removing these people or these colorable foreigners who have been successfully pretending to be Americans and have been using the sovereignty of the people to actually injure the people. And the people have not been aware of their own powers because they didn't know that the sovereign power belongs to the people themselves and not to the foreign corporations or their agencies that they have hired or taxed the people and actually funded their own corruption. And that has been entrenched. And by being entrenched, the people had no other source of information because they were never taught civics. So they were actually misguided and very often supporting the very misrepresentations and misguidances and miscomprehensions and mispresentments as the norm, assuming that the legal processes that were executed by persons owning the foreign corporate institutions at North America, thinking that they were legitimate government and therefore never questioning them. Once you comprehend what the Bill of Attainder is, you will also know that many of your family members and many of you who are listening to this broadcast tonight will recognize that you are often unlawfully imprisoned, robbed, fined, etc., and given probation on false, unconstitutional processes, legal processes, by virtue of bills of attainder, and didn't know it was happening to you. Also you have to excuse me. So I'm reading a little slower tonight because actually while I was working, I scratched my left eye, and so it's a little blurry in my left eye. So if I'm reading a little slower than I usually do, it's because I'm reading with one eye. So that's what that's about. So anyway, let's go what an attainder is. A bill of attainder. So a bill of attainder is a legislative act directed against a designated person or peoples, pronouncing him or her guilty of an alleged crime, usually treason, without trial and without conviction, according to the recognized rules of procedure, and passing sentence of death, imprisonment, etc., and an attainder upon him or her. So bills of attainder, as they are technically called, are such special acts of the legislature as inflict capital punishment upon a person supposed to be guilty of high treason, etc., or high offenses, etc., such as treason, a felony, without any conviction in the ordinary sense of judicial proceedings. Bills of attainder is an act which inflicts a milder degree of punishment, etc., than death, and is called a bill of pains and penalties. So a bill of pains and penalties is also a bill of attainder, etc. And so this is where they actually attack a man or woman that's politically a threat to them relative to anything that would threaten the power structure of corrupt government or corrupt agencies, or compromise persons controlling government, whereas the actions of the man or woman would reveal them or threaten their position. They will use a bill of attainder to neutralize them or to pull them out of the focus of the public in order to cut off their capacity to inform, to activate, to encourage peoples to enforce constitutions or treaties, etc., which is ongoing across the land right now as we speak. And this is again why we're talking about a bill of attainder. So a bill of attainder in its nature is the absolute opposite of due process. So write down due process, quote unquote, common law and due process. And I want you all to research it, to get your concepts corrected, etc. And you'll also be made aware of the fact that the prisons are packed in North America with over 90% of the people in prisons never had a trial by jury of their own national peers. Never. In violation of law. All of those persons who are in prison or in the city jails, municipal jails, being held or arrested, 90% of people don't know that the foreign bills of exchange, which are tickets, they don't even know that they're foreign bills of exchange, and they are in their nature bills of attainder and absolutely and thoroughly unlawful. However, they use legal processes to rob the people. And because the people never knew that traffic courts are unconstitutional and were never sanctioned by the Constitution or the treaties, etc., they have actually been used or used to them. And the politicians have systematically built up a corrupt system of serving their own pockets and their own corporation, which they have stock in via traffic court. And this is why over the years, years ago, I even did a few videos on driver's license fraud. People don't know that's actually a corrupt system. They thought that it was actually a lawful system by which the quote unquote nationals or citizens of the land were constantly committing crimes via their rights of travel, when actually the whole platform is corrupt. The nature of that is also a bill of attainder. It's not racism. It's not prejudice. They're bills of attainder. And it also comes under the international rules of genocide. Keep that in mind. The International Convention for the Prevention and Punishment of Genocide. This is where you need to start executing your energies, or placing your energies for remedies relative to the peoples, etc. Now, the other thing that I wanted to do in order to also enhance your comprehension and knowledge about the corporate states operating under the United States Corporation, which would also enhance your recognition that these people are de facto and these agencies are de facto. I want to share with you the chart, some of the information with the charter for Maryland. because in its reading, and it's written in Old English, etc., the everyday man and woman who've been sharing with us here at the House of Reawakening Mind will really get a comprehension of the de facto nature of their operations on our land, etc. Because remember, many of these operatives have budgeted, as well as have encouraged different people among our own people as trolls under the guise of helping our people or trying to present the opinion to our people that this information that we have been sharing with you are merely our ideas counter to themselves, implying that they have been legitimate and we have not. So this is again why when we present a lot of this information, we will give you reference, receipts, and documentation. And it's only to the fact to show you for yourselves that you have been miseducated deliberately. And then having this knowledge, you will recognize and be able to vet people, including the trolls who are sent out by members of the colony against the Aboriginal peoples, etc., and not support them by intelligence, not by mere opinion. So with the Charter of Maryland, I want you to pay attention. See where it says Mary-land? You see that? Because that's the proper. So Maryland, Charles, by the grace of God, King of England, Scotland, France, and Ireland, defender of the faith, etc., to all to whom these presents shall come, greeting. Whereas our right, truthfully, and well-beloved subject, Cecilius Calvert, Baron of Baltimore in our kingdom of Ireland, son and heirs of Sir George Calvert, Knight, late Baron of Baltimore, in the same kingdom of Ireland, pursuing his father's intentions, being excited with a laudable and pious zeal for the propagation of the Christian faith and the enlargement of our empire and dominion, hath humbly besought leave of these by his industry and charge to transport an ample colony of the English nation unto the certain country hereafter described in the parts of America. Are we clear? Please go over this again and again, what I just stated from their documentation, that Maryland and all of your subordinate municipalities are English colony nations, distinguished from America, the land. And so the English nation unto a certain country hereafter described in the parts of America not yet cultivated and planted, though of some parts thereof inhabited by certain barbarous peoples. They're talking about us, the Aboriginal people, having no knowledge of Almighty God, and have humbly besought our royal majesty to give, grant, and confirm all the fair country with certain privileges and, justifications required or requisite, for the good government state of his colony and country aforesaid to him and his heirs forever. Now that's just the first page and part of page 2 to let you know what's really going on. And so all of their secret societies, and this would give you leave and would deem you with better comprehension of really their state of mind when they're dealing with us, etc., who they have branded Indians and blacks, and their negative attitudes is because they're claiming actually America under their empire of the English nation, colony states. And this is why people who didn't know, as we've been sharing with you for quite some time, and many people who have been set forth by them to troll us, who were denying the fact that the United States is actually a country and that they actually have no lawful jurisdiction over our people, i.e. the Moors, and that it is our duty to enforce Article 3, Section 2, i.e. consular venue, relative to any controversy dealing between us and them by law, by right of law, and by their obligations. This is why Eisenhower shut down consular venue in 1954, and they started promoting the civil rights operations of the 14th Amendment, which was never ratified nor ever a part of the legitimate Constitution. Therefore, it is colored. Persons coming under it is colored. All executions of any legislation is colored. And the execution of office or agency is a color of office. All persons claiming any authority are color of office, color of law, color of authority, etc. And this is further proof of that. Although we could go further, we wanted to set the record straight in relationship to that, particularly because some of the issues that we're dealing with right now as we speak with men and women across the country who have been systematically and recently and by obvious execution attacked and arrested under bills of attainder to neutralize the growing activities of constitutional enforcement. So I want you to go into your law dictionaries. Many of you have the flash drives, and many of you have hard copies. Go to Attainder and read that out. Then Bill of Attainder and read that out. And I also want you to go to page 207 and then look at bill. So a bill is a formal declaration, a formal complaint or statement of a particular thing or particular things in writing. Essentially, it's a writ in its nature. And it is a legal term, and this word has many meanings. Keep that in mind. You got to know all of the meanings so that your concepts will be cleared up. And so bill has many meanings and many applications, and more important of which are enumerated below. And so you may have a formal written statement or complaint to a court of justice. You may have multiple species of writ, a bill of a formal written petition, etc., a bill of exceptions, bill of evidence, bill of certiorari, etc., a bill of advocation, etc. And so it's a whole list. So study this in your spare time because many of you are going to be using this in your own affairs, particularly when you all discover in the coming months, as which we've been telling you for actually the last few years, that the bankers are going to start stealing your accounts. They've been executing it already. I also have some information that was forwarded to me earlier today of what we've been talking about in the last few years, warning the people to take their finance out the banks because they're absolutely stealing them now, and they've been instructing the mainstream media to suppress that information. However, many of you who have contacts with other nation states that are less suppressed, etc., have probably already heard it. And many of you who have been studying or keeping up with alternative news will also find that one of your major or largest hedge funds, etc., operating at North America and Canada have shut off the capacity for the owners of those accounts to get to their finance. And that's going on right now. And mainstream news outlets have been contacted by the members of the Circle Church and Chancery to keep it out of the mainstream news. It's going to leak out with some, but that's happening right now as we speak. So that's one of your largest hedge fund holders, also controlling real estate, etc. And there's two different structures of it. One is called BlackRock, and the other is called Blackstone, I think it is. So do some research, because they're blocking right now. They're the largest, so you know if they're doing it to them, you know what's getting ready to happen real soon. This is why we've been telling you over and over again, start getting silver, because a lot of people is going to go into what they think is the holidays less than happy. We ain't talking about not too happy. We're going to talk about less than happy. But back to the point, because of the encouragement that people around the world has had, seeing that the Aboriginals at North America have finally, in the last, say, 20 years, starting to stand up, even on being under attack, being oppressed, being kidnapped under bills of attainder, etc. Rest of the world is starting to openly turn against them. Now, keep in mind, Germany, who has been one of the United States corporation companies operatives' #1 ally. We know certain 3-letter agencies of the Vatican bombed or sabotaged a pipeline coming from Russia to Europe recently. I know you all saw that in the news. Well, guess what happened? Well, you're going into winter in Europe, Germany being the dominant economic power in Europe, the #1 ally of the U.S. corporation company who have been occupying us and oppressing our people and packing our people in the jails and breaking up our families. As an example, moved their major manufacturing operations of BMW, as an example, to China to save themselves. All the major auto companies in Germany have shut down at least 75% of their operations. And again, like I said, BMW moved their major operations to China. You won't find that in the mainstream news because they don't want you to know what's been happening. So the crap that they've been doing to everyone else, they're even doing to their allies by default to counter the BRICS operations, which you all have been knowing have been taking place, these last 7, 8, 9, 10 years, etc. And so logically, so this is why you have many of the auto companies here, including Ford, that has 40 to 70,000 F-100 vehicles, trucks sitting in lots hidden from the public that they can't complete because they have no chips. This has much to do with the conflict that you see with the 3-letter agencies operating the United States corporation company with the issue with China and Taiwan. Keep in mind that they broke off from China during the Second World War because that's part of Chinese territory. So those chips are there. This is the real reason why certain politicians here, including the Speaker of the House, was so-called made her trip to Taiwan with a conversation, and a lot of more stuff that's getting ready to come out. And a lot of these things, we haven't talked names directly. We're just giving you certain facts, but we want you to pay attention because a lot of people are going to go into this pseudo holiday coming up really in trouble. You're going to have thousands of people, as we're speaking right now, that's within days are going to lose their jobs, have nothing, will not be able to make payments on their cars, on their houses, and a lot of other things. Hopefully, some of you over these years and over these last few months have been listening to us, in spite of the trolls that the colonists have sent out to try to help and stabilize your families, because they're getting ready to make a major attack on the people. And a lot of things we've been telling you forever and forever and forever, we're not going to have to tell you, because they're going to prove it to you. They are going to prove it to you, and they can't hide it anymore. So I want you to keep in mind, while we shared that first page of the charter for Mary's land to you, etc., because we want you to know that it is documented that these corporate states are all English colonies and are there for the English nation in their dominant control and colonization to this very day. It's not a part of the legitimate republic of the American peoples of the land. Don't twist it. And Dr. G, can you read just the first part of, Calvert, etc., and relative to the colony?
Calvert. Are we talking about this?
Yes, on the charter. That's why, of course, we've both been busy, and I didn't have a chance to get it to you earlier, but I wanted you to be on top of it, because you have so much natural insight that all somebody got to do is give you a little bit of information, and you can see past the the worms on the page, if you get the whole point. So not only for the people's enlightenment, but also because I always have it better when you're participating, knowing some of the subject matters that I'm going into. And I've been busy working, and you've been busy, and a lot more details I would share, but I don't want to get the people's minds too cluttered with all of the information. I want to keep them very basic and very rooted, so that they can get focused on a lot of the troubles in your families have their root in bills of attainder, and that the people who are doing this to you are not racist and are not prejudiced. They are actually hybrid European colonists of the Circle Church and Chancery and of the P2 Masons, not Masonry. Don't confuse Masonry, its principle, with the Masonic orders under the Pope, etc. Because remember, Masonry itself is a rites of passage culture that's ancient on the planet of Berber, Asiatic culture for rites of passage. It has been hijacked and corrupted. So get it very, very clear, because you're going to have to start making discernment on many, many levels. This is another reason why I wanted to go into the first part of the charters, so that you can see that Maryland state mercenaries who attacked Lamont Maurice Hill, many brothers and sisters across the country recently, you need to know their motive as to why. Because they're being the effects of the BRICS operations is affecting them greatly right now around the world. And after Germany moved BMW operations to China, they start attacking anyone who's enforcing Constitution, etc., even though that's their obligation. But because they are de facto, they must, by force of color, come out and attack anyone who's enforcing Constitution and treaties. Just want to keep that in mind. That's why we shared the first page, so it becomes obvious to people who've been doubting what we've been saying, and those who also have been listening to the trolls who have been sent out there by the corporate operatives, that that's their own documentation. And you'll see that while people thought that these operatives, congressmen, senators, mayors, governors of the corporate states were their governors, they are actually Circle Church and Chancery members, operators of the Roman Curia for the English nation dominance colonies to this very day. So when you're talking about the state of Pennsylvania, state of Delaware, state of Maryland, state of California, they're all Roman Curia operations. Fact, 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 fact.
I would like to add something. There have been quite a few queries in the comments with regard to the status of Consul General Lamont
Yes.
Maurice L. And I did speak with him about a half hour before we came on live, and he did ask me to convey something. So it's we're about midway, so hopefully most of those who are here, we're going to hear this. And so yes, he is still kidnapped. He is doing well. I spoke with him. However, he said to me to please make it abundantly clear to everyone that the proper writs, the writ of habeas corpus has been served, and what needs to be done now is for the people to show up and to demand receive the body. Yes. And so he said, pick a day. So I'm not sure what day, but you did it last Tuesday, maybe Tuesday again. Mm-hmm. We need as many that can go to Charles County Detention Center and to enforce that writ.
Yes, because the people are the government. And this is what he said. The people, and Dr. G, and from your experience, particularly as you've been studying and after you had your epiphany, and you start looking at things from the larger facet of things. Mm-hmm. The people have not been in the state of mind that the sovereign rights have reverted back to the people. And so they keep looking for corporate state agents and agencies to execute constitution and treaty when it's actually the people's duty. They are de facto. They're just holding the seats. And this is another thing that shows the people that they're de facto.
I don't know what time you all went on last Tuesday, but I want to put a time out there so that folks would know. What comes up to me? I'll have to because well, I want to just say 11 a.m. Eastern. Yeah. Show up be there at 11 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday. Yeah. And to receive the bodies of your nationals, because the writs have been served.
And this really and the people need to know that this is your right and your duty all over across the country. The same things that we're arguing, this goes for all of the people on the land jurisdiction. Because keep in mind that even though the foreign operatives have been using maritime admiralty law, jurisdiction, or piracy, privateering on the land in violation, that by virtue of the legitimate republic constitution, whether it is equity or maritime, etc., jurisdiction, the treaties are still in force and it's their obligation. This is again why one of the motives as why they attacked and kidnapped Maurice L. Because also keep in mind, we've been getting correspondence for other nation states where people have been encouraged, and you'll see activities all around the world where the people are trying to reclaim their rights, discovering that all of their governments have been infiltrated by the three-letter agencies under the Roman Curia. And so a lot of this unrest that you see around the world has the same root that we've been arguing for decades via the Moorish Divine and National Movement. Not necessarily all the institutions that have been connected to Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Divine and National Movement, but to the Moorish Divine and National Movement itself, which embodies the enforcement of the Constitution. It is now under attack again. And so the people must stand up and enforce the Constitution, which includes the treaty.
Yeah, so I did, say that I would convey that, and I wanted to make sure that I did do that.
Yes.
But I also want to say that one of the things, I hear some of the things that you're saying, and there's a lot more that should be said, but this is not the venue. A lot of the things that, we've talked about it, that need to be conveyed and need to be, hashed out and so forth, cannot be.
We're sharing stuff that actually should be done by right of agency operation by other institutions whose charter has charged them to do this work.
Well, here's a okay. So JM says, official House of Reawakening Minds, we need a central private platform to communicate and coordinate events so that all Moors can attend. Well, I am so glad that you said that, because it gives me a nice little segue, a great segue, not nice, a great segue to share for those of you who were not on my live on Tuesday with Real Nagas. And here we go. I found a platform that can host up to 10,000 viewers and multiple presenters at one time. But I've got to spend $25.08 by Monday, I'm sorry, in order to lock in the lifetime half price rate. Since I made this statement on Tuesday, Grand Sheik, we've gotten 20%.
Oh, yeah.
We've gotten 20% of the 25.08 in, and there's about 869 of you on. I thank you for those of you who immediately said 5, 10, 1, 25. But if 500, which is what we said, if 500 would donate $5, 5 notes, we'll be able to lock in this, and it'll be a lifetime actual rate. Now we'll have to pay it every year, but to be able to host 10,000 in a private platform that will not be on this platform. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, it will be apart from that. It will be private.
Then they won't be able to jail us like they did
right
a few months ago.
So if you care about us being able to do this, then by all means, I urge you, if you can do it now, don't wait until we're over, there we go. Please support us. And, whatever comes in between now and Monday actually is going to go towards that. And Grand Sheik, I feel so strongly about it. If we don't make the goal of, I believe 500, of at least 500, send it in 5 so that we can do this, I'm going to take it out of my pocket. I don't really have it, but I think it's a sacrifice that we need, because there's so much that you want to say. We have so many, meaningful, not just you and I, but even with others, that I would love to have the masses share, be able to get that knowledge.
We can't talk honestly and freely on these classes.
Right.
And a lot of times it gets frustrating to people, because certain principles we have to do redundantly, because we can't go but so far without getting shut out.
Right. So we got 500 notes that came in since Tuesday when I made the announcement, and I say thank you to each and every one of you who did give, and you know who you are. And so I thank you. I sent you back little love hearts on Cash App to say thank you, and I hope you all saw that. But we still need to be able to do that, because it's so much. And I apologize, y'all. I'm dealing with a cold. I'm coming away from a cold, and I have a tickle in my throat. So excuse me for the coughing.
But anyway, so as we go into the moon, before the solstice comes in, I know the exposure of the charter for Mary's Land, with some of you who didn't know this, even though we've been talking this principle forever. Some of you didn't know this because you've never taken the time to actually look at the charter for these the states operating on our land. So many of you did not know that all of them are actually colonies, and of course, knowing that they are and incorporated, you understand that this is still dealing with the same things that you saw. For those of you who are ecclesiastical scholars, you already know why they took out the pages of the Bible where it talks about, the God, etc., and the Lord and Prince James before he was even King James, Prince James. Because when I was young, when I was between 10, 11, 12, stuff like that, because I used to collect old Bibles. Like, for instance, like the Schofield Bible still has Allah in it. They even have some Bibles, rare Bibles, that most aren't available to the general public, where Muhammad and Fatima are still in the Bible, that have been taken out of all of your newer Bibles. And so they were all dealing with Scotland, England, Scotland, France, and Ireland, etc., and the same adoration that's given in the churches to Jesus in these days was originally given to Prince James. That's a fact. You know, so they took that out so that people wouldn't recognize that the church didn't come from the Bible. The Bible in its altered form came from the church. And with the Council of Nicaea, etc., and the construction of the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed as a substitute, as a cover, modified the Heliotext, modified the Septuaginta, modified Berber culture, and created, neutered, and formulated the Bible as if it's of Roman tribal origin, etc., cutting out its Berber, Moabite, Moorish, Coptic, original Saba culture and format, etc., and actually gave it a hybrid Khazarian flavor in order to conquer the world. And thus, that's why you got this. And so from a political perspective, almost everything they have been doing has been from a proxy perspective or proxy operations, whether it's the execution of their wars, whether it's the execution of annexing lands of natural peoples, altering the history, reconstructing the history, and consistently doing things or creating injuries against different groups of humans via someone else's quote unquote nation state or someone else's name. And this is another way that they've been hiding their corruption, by doing things in other people's names, and also using compromised people of the land of different nations, etc., and tribes, etc., to compromise their own people under the guise of being legitimate LLC corporate entities, etc. And they have been quite successful with it. Now it has become so destructive on the planet that nation states, as an example, the BRICS operations, have merged their allegiances in order to begin to dismantle the Khazarian operations, also known as John 8:44 in your Bibles, etc. Someone pretending to be somebody that they're not. That's why you see them attacking anyone that gets even close to the real information relative to who our people are in reality here, particularly at North America, who've been thinking that human beings were crayons. It's all connected, and their commercial mercenary operations are chartered like this. And you never suspected it. However, this is an example of all the other states of, etc. So when you think the aggregate land, America, your concepts are absolutely corrupted and absolutely incorrect. Now, over the years, as we've been sharing with people and showing you some of the information documented, their stuff, the United States being a private corporation, not a country, boy, you should have seen and heard the multiple so-called people with titles amongst the Moorish organizations and others lying and saying that Taji guy was lying and making this stuff up. Well, guess what? The rest of the nations of the world are backing what we're saying right now. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to have to suffer to learn it the hard way. However, it's time for us, for those who are in honor of the integrity principle of human liberation and the liberation and right of a state, of reversion of a state for the Aboriginal peoples around the world, including North America. Now you know why the people at North America never got reparations, because they didn't know that they're the people of the land. And they didn't know that the corruption for conquering the Western world was launched from North America. via the three-letter agencies under the United States Corporation Company, run by members of the P2 Masons of the Vatican and the Circle Church and Chancery members of the British Accredited Registry under world domination operations of colonial powers, etc. This is why these operations were executed recently. And you notice it was in a cluster too, Dr. G. Within a few months, they kidnapped a few Moors who have been active around. All of a sudden,
just today, I did get a for those who may know what I'm talking about. I did get a text from our sister Yinka in Celestine in the Georgia territory, and she has been released. Yeah, and she's going to talk to me soon. But for those of you who know about that, she also, and she said, you know, I think it all happened around the same time.
Oh yeah, it's strategic. See, because there's a momentum building up. Recently, there's been quite a few people, even some people that never really understood the Moorish Divine and National Movement, who are discovering its relationship to them. Not the organization in its nature, but in the nature that it's actually for all humanity, but specifically for the Asiatic African tribes of North America, who are at the heart of these operations and didn't know it. You know, a lot of people thought it had nothing to do with them. They just thought it was, you know, a little religious group of interesting things, you know, an Islamic group of distinguished from some of the other Islamic sects operating at North America. But the Moorish Divine and National Movement involves the affairs of the entire human race. That's a fact. And many people are beginning to wake up to that reality. Now, with the nation states of the world coming together among themselves, creating an alliance to begin to dismantle Khazarian operations and the P2 Mason operations, etc., under the Vatican, and their hijacking of the nation states, hijacking of otherwise honorable institutions, and also hijacking Babylonian magic, using dark side, what they call dark side, black Babylonian magic, etc., to actually rule the world and to destroy nations, etc. Again, the proxies operations that they've been using, hijacking governments, hijacking organizations, infiltrating organizations, paying off compromised people in different organizations to sabotage and to neutralize any positive activities among the common people. And because nation states are finding that they are actually being neutralized, even though many of them, I'm pretty sure, come to the realization, not necessarily always because they become ethically directed or moral, etc. It is because they recognize if they don't start fixing this stuff, that they're going down the tubes too. And so they've been starting to come together. And as we've been telling here at the House of Reawakening Minds, for the last 10, 11 years, that they were going to have feedback loop, didn't we? Mm-hmm. And what's happening, it's accelerating now, whereas the evidence can no longer be hidden, particularly as you all are going to see many of your major stores, brick and mortar stores, are going to be closing as we speak and within weeks, to the point that it cannot be ignored. And then when many of you, as we have warned you, go take your finance out of the banks, you're going to find that when you go down there to try to do it now, it's going to start snowballing, and they're going to start locking you out of your accounts. And so I'm not going to have to keep telling you this over and over again. They're already in the process with the largest hedge funds of the world right now, locking these people out of their funds. And I want you to pay attention to this too. This recent collapse of certain digital coinage with certain persons of certain persuasions who've been one of the largest frauds, etc. And so I've looked at some people make statements. How come he ain't in jail? He didn't do anything that the Federal Reserve members of the Bar and Circle Church and Chancery haven't been doing since 1913, trying to counter Noble Drew Ali's right of claim here, etc. He did exactly the same methods, created a what? A fiction coin on top of the other fiction coin and robbed the people. And guess what? The reason they ain't in jail, because it's actually 3-letter agency persons, including these same politicians that these people have been arguing and voting for, that got millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of notes from that person who just stole these people's digital coinage, etc. That's why he ain't in jail. Because he did the same, he used the exact same method that the members of the Federal Reserve of the Church and Chancery did. That's a fact. And if they prosecute him, and I ain't heard it yet, but I'm just understanding how the stuff works, that they got to prosecute the Federal Reserve Board, because it's the same thing. He didn't do anything any different. I'm not defending him. I'm just telling you. That could be a subject matter in its own right. So when those of you I've been warning for years, don't fall for the Bitcoin game, and that the Rothschilds been using it since the 20s. And these people think it's new technology. Well, it's not. It was designed to rob you. Dr. J, I know he got.
I'm going to take us back to the subject matter.
Right.
My question is with regard to bills of attainder. Once one now gets the knowledge of that, maybe that is what happened to them, is there any recourse to venerate themselves or to get some type of
again, the very activities that we did this past week, coming there properly with a writ of habeas corpus sub judice sentium, as an example, right? That's we've been sacrificing to demonstrate to other people what they should do. The remedy is not something we made up. That is the remedy of treaty and constitution. That is the rightful due process. The bill of attainder is the denial of due process. Comprehend that. Due process rights is what is lawful. Bill of attainder has been the legal process used by corrupt government persons and foreign commercial mercenary operatives pretending to hold offices of authority to counter constitutional enforcement, which is what's been going on. This is what's taking place with Lamont, Maurice Hill, and others to this very day. It's been executed. This is why you see all this sudden activity, is because people from around the world have been watching us, and they've been executing these same principles that Noble Drew Ali told us to do. And by us being active, it has encouraged others. Therefore, they're trying to stop the momentum. We know that ultimately, they're going to be forced to release them. However, the deal of it is, it creates, these are the things that they want to create. Trauma.
And fear.
Disingenuous separation of the people. Disuniting any or discouraging people from exercising their right of Article 3, Section 2, diversity, consular venue proper, which would eliminate all civil rights courts that come under the 14th Amendment and would kill the whole straw operations, and thus the bond system related to all operations of the incompetent corporate state operations, and would kill the derivatives that they have created for every claim of charge that is made, from traffic tickets up to everything else, creates a bond that goes to 55 Water Street and immediately on the stock market, whether there's a conviction or not. And this has been the source of finance for these politicians for decades, and their buddies who have corporations of which they have stock in separately, that feeds their slush funds that go into the bank in Bahamas that belong to the Pope of Rome, and also to Davos, Switzerland, which is why every war they never bomb Switzerland.
That's that neutral. That's the
exactly, because that's the real United States corporation headquarters that we've been telling people forever, and then some grand governors of certain orders have been telling the people that we were incorrect when they themselves knew it, and many of them have been getting their skull and bones kicked back. And so they're mad at us. They're taking it personal because it exposes them. And they don't want the people to start studying stuff like this, because they'll realize that they haven't just been played by these hybrid Europeans. It's been a lot of people with turbans and fezzes on who claim to love Noble Drew Ali and were put there by Khazarian mafias. That's a fact. And this is further proof. I didn't write this. That's their stuff. This is why they put so much emphasis on civil rights marches since 1955 and promoting it as so-called Negro black culture for rights, when it was absolutely a fraud, absolute thorough fraud. And every leader in relationship to it was a 32 or 33 degree Mason, have a Moorish fez in secret, go to a lodge with Moorish names, and pretend they didn't know that these people they've been calling Negro, Black, and Indians are Moors collectively. That's a fact. And the more you study, the more you're going to find out. That's why they're upset. However, hey, those who made a pact with these Satanists, guess what they got to do? They're part of Synagogue of Satan too. But they've been playing this Jesus game, hiding behind Jesus. They're part of the game to the injury of these people of the land. Well, they're going to be exposed by the nations themselves. The truth of the matter, this stuff is snowballing so fast now, as me and Dr. G was talking about earlier. Before they have one problem and you can start figuring out the problems, they got another one the next day. And then another one. And then sometimes a layered with two to distract you. However, it's gotten so far now that everybody's everyday affairs are now going to be affected where they can't deny it anymore. And I comprehend, Dr. G, where a lot of people, coming or sharing with us here at the House of Reawakening Minds are looking for remedy. We've been giving them the remedies. The fundamental remedy, general for everybody, is enforce the Constitution. That has been the remedy. They keep looking, they keep looking to reinvent the wheel. Get on the wheel. Come back into the constitutional fold of government, of self. But they keep looking for sacrificial lambs, because that's the training. It's not that the people don't mean well. They're trying the best they can, but their concepts are wrong. And again, Doc, the more you comprehend this, Doc, you understand why I don't do consultations, because it's a pit. It's a pit. Unless the people in their hearts start wanting to liberate themselves, you're talking to a brick. You really are. And they will never be satisfied because they don't know that they themselves are the government. They keep relinquishing their responsibility to self, but they don't want to get robbed. They don't want to get abused. They want to be misled. All rights not enumerated in the Constitution revert back to the people. Therefore, it is your duty to know civics. It is the duty of persons, no matter what title they have, from the top to the bottom, that have been taking dues from the people, tithing from the people, or taking up their time in any social format, were given this information by the international forums, and particularly through the rights of indigenous people, undoubtedly, and on the Convention for the Punishment and Prevention of Genocide, were given this information and told to distribute this information at all costs. They spent more time criticizing and trolling Taji guy. My concern is that a lot of people are going to get injured because the storm is on you now. It ain't coming, it's on you now. And I suggest that you take the time to go back over a lot of the things we shared with you. And respectfully, we have help from even a lot of hybrid Europeans that are now telling you the truth about this crap that you've been suffering from. But Drew Ali told you going to make the European tell you the truth. However, we're not going to argue with the people. What we try to do is encourage you to please study for the benefit of yourselves and your families. Wake up someone else. Don't buy a blunt. Buy a book. Help raise your family because they're going to need this knowledge. And again, while Dr. G was even appealing to the people, to help support the channel, because whenever we go too far telling you anything, they shut us out. You already know that.
But there's so much that for them to know, and some of them may know it, but some just need confirmation that what they know is correct.
This is why we keep giving them documentation. They don't have to guess. But soon as you give this information, even some of us, you have to give fair use. You have to make fair use statements and everything, and even then they neutralize it. You all know that. So we shouldn't have to waste our time always explaining things that don't need explaining. The people have not had reference points. We have been doing the best we can, Dr. G, and you know this, to give the people receipts, reference points. But we have to encourage them to study because it's impossible for us to give them everything we know in 2-hour sessions over a year. Why? Because all the institutions were designed under animal husbandry to put them in this pit in the first place, right, to pull them into the pit of ignorance under unum sanctum operations. And then you have people who should have been telling them this, countering every chance they get, or even trying to aggravate you to get us try to defend the truth, to burn up the time instead of giving the people the information that they need. Now, everything is falling apart all around them, and people don't know what to do. When we've been telling them for years the remedies.
Couple questions. Here's a question. Can we enforce the Constitution even if some of us aren't nationals?
Because the Constitution for the United States, if you pay attention to Article 3, Section 2, is in its nature an international document.
So it doesn't matter.
Please read Article 3, Section 2. Article 4, Section 4. Article 6 in its entirety for the Constitution for the Republic, United States. And for those of you who have the divine constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Temple of Science, read Act 6, please. Go into the rights international law, rights of indigenous people. Read entirely part 1. Read part 1, section 5. It is all over the place. And it's nothing that we haven't been telling for years. It's just that until recent years that we've had bodies of people really paying attention to what we're saying and trying to apply it. And as soon as they did, the hybrid Europeans sent out commercial mercenaries under the guise of sheriffs and policemen to attack people. Even when Sharon Tracy Gale Day was imprisoned. She was imprisoned under a bill of attainder, and they disallowed a trial by jury in violation of national and international law, in violation of due process rights. But they slandered her because they had control of the media. It's no different.
Here's this question's in here like 45 times. Dr. G asked Taj if he heard of the World Health Organization treaty draft that I guess means that's being made. Have you heard of the? I don't know what they mean. Have you heard of the World Health Organization? I guess the WHO treaty draft that's being made.
Not directly. Okay. I've heard of it, but not details.
Okay. And then here's another question. Where did it go? I highlighted it. And then the explanation. Oh, can ask you to speak on the specifics of the Articles of Confederation and Treaty of Tripoli as it relates to Moors.
Now, this is what relates to Moors. Article 3, Section 2, Article 6 in its entirety. Read it right now and that'll tell you. This is, again, why, like in the treaty book, Dr. G, when we read in the treaty book about citizenship and expatriation, when I showed you, the Constitution and treaty book, and then we took them to what, Secretary Roots, 1906. That's the reason why we keep doing this is the questions like that are already answered over and over and over and over again. But you can't make people act on it. You can lead a horse to water, can't make them drink. So what do? We knock the dust off our heels, tarry not, and go to the next person who's willing to listen and do something. Why? Because we already know, like we've always said, we can't stop the bloodshed. What we can do is do the best we can to limit it. We can't stop the destruction. We can try to limit it. But if the people don't want to deal with the truth, we can't make them deal with the truth. It's like Jawali said 100 some odd years ago. Mm-hmm. He said, looks like I'm bringing the people something they just do not want. This stuff is really not complicated. It's just that people recognize they have to make such major changes in their lives because they built their lives around these institutions that has actually injured them. But they don't have a concept of where to go because their lives are built around false institutions that they thought were real.
Yeah.
And built around false information appearing real. The best we can do is try to get to the root of things, share people root of things, and trust and encourage them to start vesting in themselves and taking their time to start re-erudition of themselves. One of the other things, I was having a conversation with a brother. Remember the other day when you picked me up?
Mm-hmm.
When I came down, you picked me up, and you saw me talking to a brother?
Yeah, I did.
Well, he was one of two people who recognized me on the train when I was coming down. When I came down, his eyes popped, and he said, brother, can I talk to you for a minute? And we went over some of these things, because he just got out of detention for 760 days.
Oh,
and he had some papers he wanted me to look at real quick. And I looked at the papers, and it was so disappointing because he was in there under the bill of attainder. I asked him, did he have a trial by jury? He says no. He said they threatened him. And so he made a plea deal. I said, you gave them jurisdiction. Do you understand jurisdiction? The whole thing that we always talk about. And so here he is. He in the jail, 760 days, never had a trial. They made him make a plea deal for something he didn't even do, that other people already know that was something else that somebody else did, and they don't allow him to enter information without paying thousands of notes to get a lawyer for what they already have information under discovery that he didn't do any daggone thing, but yet he was in jail 760 days, and they got him on probation, and they took all his finance, and he lost his place. And it happens every day.
Injury.
Bill of attainder.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you came and picked me up, and you saw him. He walked outside with me. He was still trying to gather as much as he could. And he said, apparently, one of the things he mentioned, he said, I was at the House of Reawakening Minds about 7 years ago, and I got some of the information. He says, I'm really inspired. He says, are you going to have class? I said, no, not at the building because, we're going through things right now. And I told him to, go on the internet. So he don't have no computer, no phone, nothing, because they took all his stuff. So he coming out, they done robbed him,
right?
Ruined his family. He had lost his house. They took his bank account, took everything he had. He don't have a computer, no phone. let me tell you, but it's not uncommon. But the people need to know that the people themselves are the government. And again, Dr. G, the more you look at this, the more you see why people corrupt politicians and their agencies who are really been doing human trafficking. That these people keep thinking is government. The people must enforce the Constitution. Why? The Constitution's in place to secure their rights. The Constitution doesn't give them rights. It secures their rights from corrupt government. That's why they're attacking.
Which is why I had Kevin on Tuesday, and they have the Know Your Rights Foundation. So first thing is to know what your rights are.
Exactly.
You won't know whether or not, they.
And that's called civics.
Right.
Civics is the science that treats of positive law, the relationship between governments, nationals, and citizens, etc. Internationally. It deals with the rights and the duties, the capacities and the incapacities of the people in all and any government structure, organized structural political group, or bodies politic. Why is it that these so-called civil rights leaders and sheiks and grand sheiks and sheikesses and so-called marching guys and all these so-called civil leaders and religious leaders don't teach civics? Because it would expose them, most of them, as being problematically corrupt themselves. That's why they don't teach civics. And that's why they're mad at guys like me, Taji Guy, who's been sharing this information with everyday people who they've been, by multiple efforts and miseducation, hiding from the people, suppressing the people from having that knowledge, and acting like this information belongs to the Bar Association. It belongs to the people. And we've been like against a wall, a stone wall, trying to make these people realize that they have been participating in their own enslavement and compensating these pseudo foreign colony peoples who have been pretending to be your government. Here's their charter of Mary's land as an example. And the same principle applies to all the other states of corporations. And you've been voting for these people against your own selves. Oh, Taji Guy's a renegade, right? Fringe groups. Yeah, right. They've been controlling the narrative. You see, Dr. G? That's why Drew Ali said, our press is the most powerful weapon in the hand of our groups today. Without our press, they would be heaping all kind of lies on us. That's Drew Ali said that. Now you understand why the infiltrators in the Moorish movement got rid of the papers, the Moorish Guide and the Moorish Monitor. But they got a lot of temples around the place, don't they? Mm-hmm. All you got to do is look at the FBI papers to tell you everything you need to know about the treason within. But I guarantee you, they won't teach them civics, but I guarantee you they'll take the time to make up some kind of troll video to try to troll what we're trying to do to help the people. They got time for that, though. While smoking a joint and a blunt. That's GMO. And the other thing that I want people to pay attention to, too, and I was talking to this with the brother the other day before you picked me up. You notice how the corporate states, through their de facto legislators in recent years in different territories of the land, have so-called legalized marijuana, that they have a lot of people in jail for years.
Still in there.
No, it's because once they got control of it, they got that financial base, and it gave them times to GMO and modify the hemp in order to neutralize brain cell operations. Yes. It's bio warfare against the people, just like what they've been putting in their arms. And I guarantee you, pay attention to the people that have been commonly smoking marijuana in recent, and you'll recognize shortly a total change in their personality, in their skin tones, in their general demeanor, because those herbs are not natural. They've been GMO'd. So they got two things going on. They've been weaponized, and they've been generating a lot of finance, and they've removed the competition of the common people from a natural herb and jailed them for them. And the people don't recognize that that's an act of genocide. Do the research on it, y'all.
Yeah, I have a friend. When I was in the music world, and he was our musician, our keyboard player, and he's been out now for 2 years. But they kept him on that 3 strikes bill.
Yeah.
And he was addicted. He had an addiction. Instead of giving him treatment, they gave him life. But he ended up doing. Did he do 20 or 25 years? He actually did 15 years more than that charge even would have held if he hadn't been in the 3 strikes. And so, it's just crazy to take that much.
It's not crazy.
I mean, they took 25 years of his life where just
it is war. It is
where
genocide.
He should have been treated if that was an issue.
Even the lack of treatment is part of the genocide operations. We've got to stop thinking that these are just judicial oversights or mere racial, as they brand it, activities. These were designed, weaponized, color of authority, color of office, color of law, unum sanctum operations for genocide under silent weapons for quiet wars. Not accidental, not an oversight, never was.
Here's another question. Grand Sheik, what about about contacting the central authority? Who's the central?
You identify what central authority?
Yeah, I was wondering if that was something I didn't know about.
You got to be more specific.
Okay, I didn't know if there was something I missed.
You got to be more specific.
Okay, cool.
And the other thing that I wanted to share with you tonight, but we didn't have a chance to because I left some of the papers that we've been telling you all for years. And we'll share it next time, Dr. G, when we come up. We're going to give them the list of the Dun and Bradstreet of all of these state corporations, the Dun and Bradstreet numbers of all of them.
Yeah, the business.
So when these people keep thinking that these corporate states are, i.e., American states of the land aggregate, your concepts are totally incorrect. They are commercial mercenaries under occupation on our land. This is again, Dr. G. Like we over the last few years, when we redundantly read that letter from Pope Francis to Obama, and he makes the distinction between the corporation and the land, between the U.S. citizen and the organic American peoples of the land. The aggregate land. The interesting thing, above all, many things, is that this information is not totally hidden. And even when we show the people the documentation, you have people, Moors, who will troll and attack and tell the people that we're lying. When we're showing them the documents. That's how you know who the traitors among you are. However, that's again why they're attacking, because they know sooner or later when the people start waking up in droves, they're coming after them too. And they're easier to get to than the politicians who've been hiding in the tunnels. This is another reason why they have them trolls, because when these people, like I said to you before for years, Dr. G, when these people really figure out, and it becomes obvious that a lot of these people who they've trusted, that they've been giving their finance to, for decades under the guise of religious orders and everything, and find out that they knew this information all the time, and they spent more time attacking people who've been trying to expose this information than they've been doing to fix this information, and they've been hiding behind the race argument conveniently, and that all of that paradigm is a fraud. These people will come up, these people will take spools and spools of thread when they can't find rope to dress these people up on the nearest Christmas tree that they can find that's tall enough to keep their feet off the ground. And they know it's coming. That's why they keep trolling, because it's deeper than people think it is. On the surface, people are just kind of trying to work their comprehension out, trying to figure out, trying to put two and two together and stuff and then trying their best to get their house in order. Some of them learning trust and, doing their little things, sending out writs and everything, trying to work in every stuff. And when they find out that these people were instructed to distribute this information at all costs. That's provable. Go look at international law. Rights of indigenous people, churches, civic groups, etc., were told directly, their leadership, and even all of the so-called de facto government agencies, to distribute this information at all costs. And these people think that, this just round table stuff. This just Moors Order of the Round Table people, them renegade fringe group Moors and stuff. And all of these people you've trusted had this information and were told to distribute it. However, they've been benefiting from the injury of their own people. That's why they're trolling, because they know when it dawns on these people what they've been doing to them and helping the hybrids do to them. These people can't go underground like their bosses can, like their handlers can. Let's look at it this way. Them dumbs of hell are being eliminated for the background Satanists. So what's going to happen to their minions that they've had in these different churches, mosques, synagogues, temples, etc., who've been hiding behind Jesus, God, Allah, and everything else, and been getting away with it successfully, and find out that they've been part of this network?
A lot of them are coming out, so to speak, and starting to be accepting of things that in their years going by that they were, against.
They know it's coming. When you start seeing them, you'll see certain big time evangelists, preachers, and some bishops and whatever start and make statements about tithing and a whole bunch of other things about the Bible, kind of like, we really want to make this, because you know what? They know it's coming.
Joyce Meyer getting tattoos and saying, that's what.
They know it's coming.
Yeah.
They know it's coming.
It's like.
They know it's coming. So they can't come right out and say we was lying, and that we've been exploiting the people. So they say, well, I saw a new interpretation of the Bible, and the real skip came out, and I saw a video, and then I had a dream, and then I got up because I heard the calling of the Lord, and then, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, trying to prepare so that they got, some kind of alibi as this stuff, because they're starting to roll now. Like a thief or criminal can always gets ahead of the game because they know when it's starting to get out. No different than the guys with the Bitcoin things. When they saw it was going to go bust, what they do? They created other dummy corporations within the corporations and pilfered the finance, so that when it collapsed, they had already pilfered most of the finance. I had no idea that the balloon would bust. I didn't know that you couldn't be sewing around balloons with needles. I didn't know you weren't supposed to smoke cigarettes and stuff in the gasoline refinement plants and stuff. Yeah, right. It's basically the same thing. They know it's going to blow up. Just like what are they covering up? The theft of the pension plans and hedge funds, and the teachers. the teachers' retirement funds of Canada, they robbed it because most of their funds was in that Bitcoin stuff that just popped. Teachers, oh, aren't they intelligent? Oh, don't they have a curriculum? Haven't they been teaching the children discernment? Haven't they been teaching the children critical thinking? Oh, no, that kind of stuff is off the board in the curriculums. Well, they just been had all of it, not some, all of the teachers' retirement funds and pension funds was invested in Bitcoinage. You know what's interesting, Dr. G? This is what's interesting. Law, right? Dictionary. That's a coin. A coin is a metal, tangible instrument, usually circular. At what point is this digital? Abstract. Bit, which means part piece of a coin. Isn't that an oxymoron? Because it doesn't exist. Do we need to go further to show you that people have been dumbed down so much that they don't even recognize that a coin is a manifest, physical, tangible thing? And they've been convinced that an abstract is more powerful than this. And literally a lot of people testing the waters have invested, and a lot of, like the teachers' retirement fund, the hedge, they put all of your stuff without your permission in it, and it just got popped. As an example. So I want you all to start looking up, and you're probably going to dig a little bit because they're going to take stuff down as they usually do when people start waking up. Start looking up BlackRock. Start looking up Canadian Teachers Fund. Where is it? Just like the coin, where is it now type thing. And it'll probably keep linking you up to other stuff before they shut stuff down. And you'll see what we've been telling you all for quite some time. And then let all these trolls keep telling you that Taji guy is lying. So then they'll tell you themselves. So for those of you who are able, I suggest to get whatever you got left out them banks, because they're getting ready. They're getting ready because of snowball. We're hitting an apex point. So they're doing it to the largest hedge funds. What do you think they're going to do to you? What do you think they're going to do to you? What else are they going to do? They're going to be forced to eliminate dealers.
You talking about car dealers?
Whether they're car dealers or anything big, in order to save the larger corporate. They're going to be throwing everybody under the bus. I'm telling you, because they didn't rob all the hedge funds. Because remember, for the years I've been telling the people that the politicians have been robbing them, but they're using the corporations to do their dirty work. So it doesn't look, they just do the legislation for the corporations that they have stock in, so it don't look like they're doing it. Keep telling these people these are members of the Circle Church and Chancery, of the Roman Curia. But they didn't believe Taji guy. I ain't gotta keep on telling you, because you're all gonna be experiencing this stuff before Christmas. You better get some steel drawers, because they're gonna be after your cheeks. You ain't seen half-ass yet. But to the degree we can help some people who are listening, we're trying the best we can, Dr. D. But the people are going to have to help themselves.
That's true. That's true. But we need to be prepared, and folks, like you've been saying, from a preparedness standpoint, what needs to be in the home as far as, water and provisions and things like that. Not play with this, because when you go to the stores, you're seeing two things. You're seeing highly inflated prices and very empty shelves. And some of those things that you become used to, like that book that's behind you says the new abnormal.
And then look at
and we're living in a new abnormal, because that's not what the Lord giveth, and the Lord has now taken it away.
Right. Now look at the day, even, Doc. We had to go to 3 different major store outlets.
Yes.
Just to pick out 13
beat up
2x3 studs. To get 13 out of piles, we had to go to 3 different stores that were well stocked with garbage lumber, as an example, that cost 3 times as much as it did 2 years ago.
And just just so they'll know, we actually are having another volunteer weekend this weekend, with work still continuing at the House of Real Awakening Minds, and I want to give a shout out to those that are here. So far, I know before we came up here, we had California, what else? New York, Chicago, New Jersey. So they're coming in. Maryland's coming in. So we thank you for those who volunteered the last time in August, and they came back to, hopefully this time we'll complete the renovation work or get a little closer to completion, so that we'll be ready to reopen in the first quarter of 2023. And I appreciate each and every one of them.
And then look at this, Dr. G, because I want you all to know, it's not that they were out of stock. They had plenty.
It just wasn't good.
It was garbage. I mean, pick through. I mean, and it wasn't like low. That was stacked, but it was all garbage. Contractors apparently picked through the stuff. They was warped, bent, turned. You could make bow and arrows out of half that stuff. For real. They may as well just send it to a toothpick factory, because it wasn't good for building anything. And Dr. G, you were looking for me, right? And you found me what? Laying down on a stack of lumber next to it, sliding pieces out to try to find, and I was there about what? A good half an hour to get 13 pieces of lumber out of a stack of about 300 pieces of lumber. Picking through. So it's not only the lack of quality, it's the time spent, Dr. B. And even some of the pieces I had under normal circumstances, I tolerated because I needed something. But, it doesn't shock me, because I already knew this stuff was coming. But the real deal is, it's disappointing, because we have, spent most of what we do trying to help everyday people that don't use critical thinking, that are busy just trying to survive, and not wanting to see people blindsided by what we knew was coming. And then seeing it right here, and even a lot of things that is on the table that we could talk about, but we can't talk about because they shut us down. So I talked about things.
But we will be able to do it, like I said, when we get our webinar platform up, we can come off of, these other social media platforms for those things, and have some ability to be private.
They don't even want the people to get help, and the people keep thinking, that ain't your government. Keep telling you that it's not your government. They're your enemies who have hijacked government.
Somebody says, stop looking for a leader. We agree.
Because it ain't that. Those days are over.
Yeah.
We keep, one of the things, what do we commonly use as a motto, a fine point? Every man, every woman, every child must confess their own, worship under their own vine and fig tree. Because that signifies an inheritance, you all.
We've had enough time long enough time of looking outside of ourselves. which is the problem, for the answer, for the
That's
solutions.
by training. Keep that in mind. It ain't like we've been doing it. We've been trained
to do it
from childhood to do it.
Right.
However, we're going to have to start disciplining ourselves, even though it might, one of the hardest things, because we're creatures of habit, is to change this dependency habit that is really destructive. But the people don't know it's destructive because they thought that government was serving them, not serving them up on a platter like a piece of steak, which is part of the reality that they're discovering. So comprehend that the state of Delaware, state of New Jersey, state of Pennsylvania, state of California, state of Nevada, state of New Hampshire, state of Texas, state of Louisiana, state of Florida, state of Georgia, state of North Carolina, state of South Carolina, state of Virginia, and all them ofs, states, etc., all their charters, they are what? Via England, Scotland, France, and Ireland, defenders of the faith and church, to all whom these presents shall come, greetings, and that's all subjects of the domination and operations of the English nation, empire. There it is.
I can bring it up on the screen.
So when you get some of the corporate state blunt smokers coming on trolling us, you'll know what their motivation, where it has its origin, and why they're upset. So you start figuring out what their connections are, and that they may happen to have handlers that you didn't know about, but you can know about it. And that includes corporation operating in the United States with its sister jurisdiction called Canada. That ain't the land.
Part of North America. America. See if there are any more questions.
And again, just as a reminder, so start looking up links that will happen. Just put up general question. Why did Germany move the major operations of BMW to China? Just ask that. And it's going to show you a lot of things. So a lot of people ain't going to have a job by Christmas. And then when you all look back at last month's news and you see the three-letter agency that tried to hide it under, because they do everything in proxy. When they bombed that pipeline coming from Russia to Europe, that the effects have backfired. And keep in mind, that's not your government. That's people pretending to be government who have hijacked the republic here at North America, who are also attacking anyone who knows who they really are.
On that, we do want to add, for those who may not have been on the live at when I spoke about it, and there were questions about Consul General Lamont, Maurice L., and I spoke with him around 7 p.m. Eastern, and he is doing as well as can be expected in the circumstance. He sounded like himself, but he did ask me to ask you all that can on Tuesday, which is December 6th. And we picked the time at 11 a.m. for those of you who can journey to Charles County Detention Center and to retrieve your nationals, because the writs of habeas corpus have already been served, but we have to go get them. We have to go get them. So,
and that's a side note too.
And that's in what,
Two of the
Virginia? Is that in Maryland?
Sister consulars.
In Maryland?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
in Maryland.
Yeah.
So
That's why we showed their charter.
Charles County, in Maryland.
Yeah.
So just look up Charles County Detention Center, Maryland, for the exact location, the coordinates, so that you'll be there, those that can, at 11 a.m. Eastern time
And
on Tuesday, December 6th.
They would have it posted. I think they would have it posted.
Well, he said to pick the time, so I'm telling them, we can't just say show up. So 11 is a good number. So we wanted to make sure,
because even when we went down there, they already said then that they were going to release them. But when
something happened,
what happened when the sister delivered the writ of habeas corpus sub judicentum, because it was actually a commissioner that actually came out of hybrid European. Then another one came out and said, we're here to receive the papers. They were already aware, right? Then they started playing dumb. Then they made us wait. Then they went back and got a sister and put the sister up in front to say, it's not our policy. We can't have it. They said, you're obligated to the Constitution. She showed her the Constitution, showed them their obligation, everything. And she said, well, I can't help you. You have to go to the state's attorney. And so they were told the sisters, then they had to go and make new copies because they were all sufficient. First, they said they were going to receive it. We talked to the commissioner, and they said they're just waiting for someone to pick them up. We was there for that purpose. Then they neutralized it. He said he was going to receive it. Then they stopped, went back and got a sister, and the sister came up. We already know how that works. They use the proxy. And
answer to the question about should they be wearing sidearms on Tuesday? I'd say no. We're not going to provoke. No,
it's not necessary.
Absolutely not.
No.
So we want to make
even though you have that right belongs, but don't give them no excuses.
Yeah.
Not necessary. Film everything.
Yes.
And all of those who just heard the message from Dr. G, read Article 3, Section 1 and 2 for the Constitution for the United States, and you'll recognize its international nature. You'll recognize the legitimate courts, and then read Article 6 in its entirety so that your concepts will be clear and correct.
Yes. And so, again, we have been talking about, just being able, we've been talking about it for a long time, being able to privately meet to, discuss the things of importance to us without, going through shadow banning and all the other things that happen when you speak the truth or you speak truth to alleged power. So we want to be able to do that. And we have an opportunity to do that. So if you have not are not aware of what I said earlier, we have actually found the platform that we're currently on has added a new feature, which is for webinars, private webinars and classes and so forth, and presentations, and will actually support, what did I say, Sheik? 10,000. Here we go. We found it can host up to 10,000 viewers and multiple presenters. However, we have to pay a $2,500 note fee by Tuesday the 6th in order to lock in this lifetime. That means it's just half price annual rate. And we're just calling on all those who can, if you will. There's over 1,000 of you on here. If half of you would donate 5 notes, 2 notes, 3 notes, whatever you can to get us there, we will be able to secure this. I need to do it. Really, I want to do it by Monday, Grand Sheik. I don't want to wait to the last minute. I want to thank those who already sent in. As when I made this announcement on Tuesday, 500 notes has come in, and we are grateful because at least that primed the pump. You know what I mean? But we need like about $2,000 more, and I'm sure since we made the announcement earlier in this presentation, some of you have probably even donated. We don't need any. We're doing work this weekend. It's going to cost probably about $3,000 in materials, but all of the work being done is being done, Grand Sheik, by volunteers. I'm talking, highly skilled carpenters, contractors, electricians, and the like coming to give up their time. so we can get that building together. Well, that that translates you into finances and time. Grand Sheik, you can do all of that work, but you can't do all of that at one time. And so we are grateful for them coming from all over the country this weekend. I mean, they're actually here now, and doing what they're doing. This is the second time since August. But for this platform, which is urgent, we want to be able to, maybe even put together, Grand Sheik, you would think, a webinar as early as maybe next week.
Yes.
If we can secure this by Tuesday, we will put on, if not next week, definitely by the week after that. And that is something that we'll be able to do in private, and you will be able to go back and look at the presentations. So if you miss it, you'll be able to go back and look at those. So we appreciate each and every one.
Doing some more refined breakdown,
right,
and support receipts that they will not allow us freely to give to the people that we want to.
Right.
But they definitely do not want the people to have this knowledge, because if they do, they already know it's over for them. However, the world's turning on them, so the momentum is on anyway. Even though they're, oppressing the people, you know what I mean? At the same time, it's on.
Okay. Sister Desiree Washington, if you see what's going across the screen, and I'll put this up again. Maybe you missed it, but the actual for donation is cash.me / reawaken on Cash App, or it's paypal.me. You see it here, and / and it's my first and last names, my straw. So either one, but Cash App is good, / reawaken, and that's how you donate to us. We do appreciate you, and I try to go back in every time someone does send some, Grand Sheik. I try to go in and at least acknowledge that we receive it and send them a love and send them a heart back of appreciation. So we thank you, and we want to all you asking for processes donate. I'm not sure what that means, but it's it can be it could be a note, it could be a if you only have a note, we appreciate it and go towards it. But even like I said, and I'm not saying this because I don't want I want you to invest in this, because wherever the shortcome is, Grand Sheik, I've said it publicly, I'm going to have to make up the difference, from my private resources. But because that's how much I know we need this. I know we need it. And the other thing is, I also know that others will be able to, do the same, be able to use the platform. We'll be able to, we're not going to be stingy with it. If there's something that, needs to get out, then we have this platform that's going to let us do that. And to be able to have up to 10,000 viewers, that's monumental.
I'm going to do an additional support and judicial and historical, political, analytical breakdown of the charter issues that I've been talking about. Mm-hmm. And those are parts of some of the texts of both the treaty book and also Warship Dispeller that I told you of the original text that weren't put in there. And
people are asking, about the treaty books and all that, and I, we are trying to get those books read.
And then look, it's sort of like how many people, Doc, in between, right? Which you know of, because I'm not really complaining. I appreciate people's help. Have we had certain other people who were helping, and then we had to stop, recognizing that they weren't being as honorable in the matters,
right?
Which is again by me being so busy traveling and trying to keep up with the people, I haven't had time to really do it, even though I've been working on the stuff, to get the original transcripts. Because most of the stuff that's even out, as you already know, Doc, aren't all my original transcripts. They were done for efficiency and expedition.
And some of them, were they on that?
Yeah, a lot of them.
We didn't. Can I share what happened?
Yeah.
Okay, so we didn't make this public, but Grand Sheik traveled, was it about 2 months ago now, a month now, a couple of months ago to do a presentation in Tennessee, and it was such a, by the way he went, he does, you all know he don't fly, and so he went via bus, and he had to do several buses and do just exchanges and so forth. There was a mix up. I don't know whether it was after the second stop or the first stop. Second stop, and they were all told they had to get off the bus so that they could clean it up, and then they will get back on. And he asked if he should take his bag that was inside out with him, and they said no, you're going to get back on. Well, by the time they were called to get back on the bus, or he thought he was getting back on the bus was gone.
There was supposed to be, we found out also about a bus driver conflict that was going on inside. They're supposed to switch drivers, and they go so far, and they were supposed to have enough other bus, and it came out that they were having actually bus driver disputes within the company. And not only us, it was a few other buses, a few other people had the same problem. It ended up being over 200 people in there that were supposed to transfer or go on certain buses, as they usually do.
Right.
They make how you make your crossovers on your tickets, etc. Right. That got stuck there for hours.
But not only being stuck, they took Grand Sheik, all of his suitcase under the bus with his clothes, and they took his briefcase with his computer, his seals, everything he had, and they have never ever, he's not found yet. So when I tell you, he was working on redoing books and so forth, all of that got taken when the bus took off, and we've been calling and we've been trying
battling,
trying
even though they're tagged.
Yeah, everything. So his computer, all of the material on there, all the stuff he had in the briefcase, his seals, everything. Everything. And I was upset, more upset than him. You know how good-natured, even-tempered Grand Sheik is. I've been livid about it and feeling like they took all your stuff, but he, you don't have the same kind of feeling. I guess life goes on, but that's one of the things that we didn't share. But all of that got taken. So things happen in the background, and a lot of times I'll bring out, so he won't say it, but yes, this, so he lost his computer, all of the material on it, all the stuff that was in the briefcase, everything. Somebody got it. So it is what it is. But
and that went for a lot of people that was on the bus. It was quite a few people that on that bus was supposed to get back on.
Yeah, but your stuff was probably the most valuable stuff that was on there. But that is what it is. So anyway, it happened. So anyway, we're gonna go because we got folks here from all over the country. And they probably are working as we speak. And like again, so we're going down to the House of Reawakening Minds because the work is this weekend is our volunteer weekend to continue the work. So it's I don't know all that so well. Yeah, but anyway, life goes on. Yeah, we. They didn't take Grand Sheik. Look, we didn't lose Grand Sheik, and that's the most important thing. So with that, Grand Sheik, you want to take us out of here? Let them know.
Yes. Again, thank you for sharing this time with us here at the House of Reawakening Minds. And although there's a lot more details that I wanted to get into the charter, and I wanted to also get into a couple of the other corporate state charters, but of course, time doesn't allow that. But one of the things that I was talking to Dr. G about earlier, I wanted her to just print off just the front page, at least one page, so that the concept of the jurisdiction would be very, very, very clear to everybody listening. Because unfortunately, the everyday people do not know that these corporate state ofs are colony operations to this day. And they thought that the corporate states were separate jurisdiction from England. They are not. And this has much to do why the jails have been packed with our people, because the unum sanctum wars have never ended. And unfortunately, as we have been trying different methods of showing the people so that they could change their priorities, etc., we've had people who you thought was on our side of the nation being the major source of attacking us to try to discredit what we've been doing. So this is another reason why I just used the first 2 pages so that you could see for yourself the real relationship, etc. Because as we've been telling you over time, like we would tell you these things, and somebody from some grand governor or some grand sheik from some other temple, Mon Sat's temple, would be one of the first ones that would make a trolling video to try to counter this and in order to knock it. That's how you can. That's why also, like I told you over the years, that they do not want the people to see the FBI papers because it becomes obvious what is known as the great sellout. However, the momentum for dismantling the tunnels of hell and the Khazarian operatives is being executed by an alliance, both galactic and the other states on the planet, that their counter moves are going to have less and less effect. And it's moving speedily right now. And a lot of these people are going to have to answer not to me, they're going to have to answer to you. However, most of them are going to try to hide or disappear, because when you start looking at many of your family members that have fallen to this silent war that you thought was something else and they're not here with you, and you find out these people were part of this thing's going to get quite ugly, really kind of ugly. And I wish the best for everyone. Don't fear, don't fall for the trauma, because that's some of the tools that they're using. Study and be prepared for major changes near future, not far. And have a grand evening.
Oh, yeah. And one last thing. A lot of you who don't tune in on my Tuesday night, this Tuesday at 8 p.m., I will have Brother Rod Hayes will be back.
Oh, right on.
Rod and I'll be here.
Rod.
All right. So Tuesday night at 8 p.m. right here on this channel. So we thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Look, we'll put it there. What? Oh, the book. Yeah.
Everybody mad, ain't they?
Yeah, whatever.
But if they read between the lines, they're going to find out a lot of stuff in the politics. But you're going to find out motive why the resistance as you go along. And that will help you comprehend a lot of things we've been telling you for years on the political realm. Because remember, we don't pump belief systems. We're pumping bloodline, birthright, heritability issues.
All right. We're out of here.
The deeper and deeper I go, I find what it is I should know. 'Cause it's just a matter of time that you'll reawaken your mind. Oh, come with me, come to know and find out what is true. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening mine. Come to know and find out what is truth, yes. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening